going on, everybody, and welcome back to Salty Runback, here to be your weekly intake of North American Developmental League of Legends. I think that we always have this moment where we say, like, oh, it's towards the end of the road. We're at the end of the season, and this almost is that at this point. The NACL promotion tournament just wrapped up. The only things left are some of these streamer events, game changers happening as well, which we'll talk about maybe in a couple more weeks as we get closer to that live event. But man, what a promotion tournament it was, Hawk. We saw 2 NACLQ teams promote. We're going to talk all about that and more. How are you doing today?
Grapes, I'm doing great, and we should be clear. We are at the end of the road at this point, but that doesn't mean there's not still fun League of Legends to talk about. So that's why we're gonna keep talking about it, because there's a lot of breakdown from the promotion tournament, and as you said, a couple other fun events coming up. So like the season of Developmental League has essentially ended, but that doesn't mean that we don't still have some fun stuff to look forward to. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about it because I know like maybe a month ago we had a long conversation about how the off season for tier 2 is too damn long, and it turns out that Riot was thinking the same thing. So good for them.
There's some other things happening kind of in this pseudo off-season period. Maybe a Salty Runback Invitational. Who knows? Maybe
there could be a Salty Runback Invitational in the future.
maybe something we got to talk about after the show.
We have memed about this so much. Like, it'd be so funny if we just never did it.
It's just an in perpetuity idea. Yeah. But yeah, we apologize for the bit of an irregular upload schedule. I have started school again, as you can see by the change in the background, and so it's been a bit hectic for me, but we found time to record. We're going to be talking with Messages of LiT Esports after this in our part 2, who did promote into the NACL. We'll get into that once again in just a little bit, but Hawk, maybe we can get into it now. You ready to get into our headlines?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Well, our first question is going to be about this NACL promotion tournament that just happened, as we saw Mirage Alliance and LiT Esports promote into the NACL for spring 2024. Unfortunately for our other 4 teams, Winthrop, Team Ambition, Taco, and Supernova, they are out, although maybe we'll see them again in Tier 3 come 2024. Hawk, what was more surprising to you? The fact that no NACL teams made it, or LiT running through the upper bracket to qualify without dropping a single series?
Yeah, dude. So what the most surprising thing is the fashion in which LiT made it, for sure. I don't think LiT making it is that surprising. I know you were a huge LiT truther, like, on the show for the last month. So this guy over here called it. Like, that's not for me, a little bit surprising that LiT made it, but like I definitely expected that they could, and they did. Now, to your point, the fashion in which they made it was very surprising. I did not expect LiT to beat Mirage Alliance, and then they took down both NACL teams as well. They took down, theoretically, the 3 best teams in the tournament pretty easily. Very impressive stuff from them. As far as pre-tournament expectations, I was pretty surprised that Team Fish Taco, I know I said they would probably defend their spot, but seeing things that transpired, honestly, not that surprising anymore. They seemed pretty done, and it is what it is. So but yeah, definitely most surprising thing is the fashion in which LiT Esports were able to do it.
While I was definitely a big LiT truther at times, I remember back in our Salt Street Bets episode, I actually picked them as the second team in terms of points. While that obviously didn't end up happening, they were ending this season kind of as the second best qualifier team, which I'll give myself a little bit of credit for that in a way. But going into the tournament, I think even though I had high expectations of a lot of the players on the roster, I think if you go back, I didn't want to fully guarantee that one of them was going to promote or that they were going to have a good showing, because from what we saw in the last few weeks of the NACLQ season, LiT really was kind of on the downturn, and normally, those teams that kind of are trending downwards stay trending downwards, but something clicked. And with Rock Boom coming in, they had a really talented roster top to bottom. Honestly, a roster talented enough to contest any of them, which I think is something that we have said. The question was just, were they able to gel together at the right time? And they finally did. I think everybody had their own individual moments where they stepped up. Specifically, Rock Boom coming in after
Yeah.
being on Aporia, a team that went 0-4 in the first qualifier.
Everyone that only watches NACL just got like indoctrinated into
Yeah, I mean,
the
we've been hyping
rock
him up
of
for a
boom.
while.
I don't know, man. Like, yeah, like we've been hyping him up, but I'm saying
Yeah.
anyone that only watched tier 2 just saw like who this player we've been talking about is. Like, yeah,
No,
he went
I
crazy.
kept seeing posts like, man, this Rock Boom guy coming out of nowhere and like
Yeah,
being one of the
yeah.
best AD carries. I was like, bro's never seen Salty Runback. That's
Oh
all I'm
yeah.
saying. Like we've been talking about this guy for a
We've
while.
been we were rock boom fans on this show.
Yeah, and of course everyone else really stepping up at times. Dragoon had a Darius pentakill, which was insane.
Fucking crazy.
Messages, I think, having some really insane performances as well. And Kisno and Plux, being the role players and stepping up when it mattered most. I hope that this team kind of sticks together, at least in part. I know Plux like works a full-time job and wasn't supposed to be here in the first place, so we'll see what happens there. But an exciting team to watch moving forward, because I think we've seen like the high highs that they can hit as well as the low lows, and hopefully if they stick together, have a little bit more time to gel, we'll get more of those high highs as we continue on.
Definitely, dude. Like, I want to talk about Dragoon for a second. I know you're tweeting about this, but like, Dragoon literally gave us all the tech on the show like the day before his match, and then busted all of it out over the course of the promotion tournament.
Yes,
It's fucking crazy. Like, that guy, he's one of my favorite players to watch. Shout out to Dragoon for being on the show last week, and I mean, showing why he's one of the best top laners in our system. Like, yeah, the fashion in which LiT did it was amazing. I do want to talk a little bit more about the NACL teams, because I know I, at least personally, had kind of written off Supernova a little bit. I said that TFT, if they play the way that they played in NACL, should be fine. Well, they absolutely did not play the way that they played in NACL, and in fact, their top laner decided not to play at all for their second series. Which this kind of leads into our second headline a little bit, but based on that version of TFT, not at all surprising they demoted, but it is honestly a little surprising to me just how much both NACL teams seem to completely mental boom in promotion grapes.
Yeah, and I think that can kind of lead us into our next topic
Yeah.
here, because this is a situation where Taco and Supernova were better last place teams than we sent into the promotion tournament in spring, when you had some of the first rosters, and I guess AoE would be like the kind of comparison in terms of how strong these teams were on paper, or at least in our heads coming down, not dropping every series that they played, actually staying competitive in the league. But with this time, didn't end up working out very well. We saw, Lunacia just kind of not showing up and resulting in having Spawn play top lane, who is probably the best player on that TFT roster coming into it for that second series. And then Supernova, I mean, we could talk about them a little bit later, but they also looked completely done, especially from what we've heard after the promotion tournament ended up concluding. This means that 5 of the 6 NACL teams that have been sent down in 2023 failed to regain their spot in the league. Hawk, is this a matter of just the qualifier teams being better, or is there some way in the format which kind of dooms the NACL teams from the start?
I think it's so interesting, because the NACL team should not be doomed. Like, honestly, like, if I don't want to dig too much at the players on these teams or anything, because a lot of them are really great players and really great people and deserve like what they have. But I mean, a month off, like, to scrim and stuff, should not after a tough split, should not destroy a team if they're actually better than the ones below. But what we're seeing is just like insane levels of, at least this split, insane levels of mental boom from the teams. We also saw this from like Last Dance in spring and everything. And it's kind of crazy. And so, I mean, yeah, these qualifier teams definitely have momentum coming into the promotion tournament, but that should not doom the NSCL teams. We should not be seeing this level of implosion that we have been. And also, something that happened this split in particular is, I know we just straight up thought Mirage Alliance was the best team. We thought that there are teams in qualifiers that are just better than the ones that are fighting for relegation in NACL, right? And that theoretically should not be a thing. However, it always seems to happen that like some of the best players just don't get picked up in tier 2. Um, and so that's another thing where like I feel like they shouldn't be doomed in that sense, but that seems to keep happening. So I guess my answer, Graves, is like they shouldn't be doomed, but yet it seems like that these teams keep collapsing and that there's always just someone better than them in tier 3 as well.
Yeah, I mean, going to last spring, I think one of the excuses that we gave to some of the teams that demoted was, oh, they're tier 3 rosters. They kind of from the start, they're the LCS affiliates, but they already also have a challengers team. So this is kind of the space where they can experiment with some new talent, maybe
Yeah.
not as talented and maybe not care as much about winning. But with the system being the way it is, you kind of did have to care about winning if you were those teams because you would be kind of sent down. And so that was kind of a weird space. That wasn't really the case here. I mean, if you're Taco or Supernova, your goal is to build the most competitive roster to win because you're an independent org and you want to perform well in the league. This is kind of your tier 1 league in terms of League of Legends gameplay. But I think just kind of having that mental edge for the qualifier teams really helped. I think we talked about it a little bit last week where we thought it might be an advantage, but I mean, it really was an advantage. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just it really like the mental thing is really crazy. I mean, it reached ahead like in game 3 against Mirage Alliance. I don't need to sugarcoat it. Like the Shaco support pick was just nothing short of a complete mental boom and sprinting it in a professional game. I mean, I don't know if that's too bold to say, but I just feel like that's true. Especially based on I've heard details that I probably won't share here, but yeah, like Supernova just boomed. So I would say in that sense, yeah, the NACL teams are disadvantaged by the format. But again, the point that I want to echo is like if these teams and these players are really serious about like playing at this level, that shouldn't happen. A month of scrims just should not destroy a team in the way that it is. If these players get wrecked a little bit on a lower tier team in tier 2 and then basically say fuck it, I don't want to play next split, then that's on them and not the format. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and again, we don't know the full details of what the hell happened over at Supernova, but
Yeah. We
somebody
know some,
should
we've
be in
heard
big
things.
trouble after what just happened. I don't know
Yeah.
all the details, and I don't want to point any fingers in any
Yeah.
direction without having the proper context, which maybe we'll get in a little bit later. But that is
Yeah.
unacceptable for what
It
just
is.
happened. Like
It's
you can't
not.
have that. It's like after such a great end to the split with Disguise winning everything, and then this is the taste that people have left in their mouths at the end of the year. I mean, we'll
And
see what happens, but yeah, it was a
and
real shame.
here's what I'll say too about Supernova in particular is like Grapes, you're talking about how in spring some of these LCS affiliated teams were willing to experiment more and maybe wouldn't put together the most competitive roster. Honestly, what I'll say is I don't think Supernova put together the most competitive NACL roster either for different reasons, right? It's just that they couldn't. They couldn't retain players like Dragoon that promoted with them in spring and then went on to relegate them in summer again, right? It's just that Supernova couldn't get their hands on those players. So it's not all mental boom. I'll say Mirage Alliance, I just think was a better team than them. Straight up, right? However, the mental boom thing is definitely relevant. So what I would like to see heading into spring is at the very least, I would like our 9th and 10th place NACL teams. I would like to look at them on paper and not think that they're obviously worse than a team coming up from qualifiers. Will that happen? Who the hell knows? But I'm hoping that, these teams in NACL are able to pay the players enough to incentivize them to play in tier 2.
Well, maybe that's the next step. Now that Mirage Alliance and LiT, which are two orgs that we
Yeah.
have heard
Which
pay their
they shelled
players,
out. They shelled
yeah,
out,
if
apparently.
they're in the league now,
So, yeah.
that might help them a little bit. So I am happy about that. And maybe this is just kind of the messy period at the start that needs to happen in order to get to a place that we want to be. And
I
hopefully,
think messy is a good word to describe 2023 tier 2 in
yeah.
general.
I mean, in theory, right? If you are a team that promoted in the previous split, you should be good enough to hold your spot because you're playing the same tournament again. But we'll see how that goes and if that actually
Right.
ends up happening.
Yeah, I would really like to see Mirage Alliance and LiT as well, like at least retain some semblance of the same core, or if they don't, get players that have that Challengers League experience before. Like I think the big thing was Supernova and Team Fish Taco after promoting into the league were basically like, well, who do we pick up? And they picked up some players that, to their credit, are very good players. But Grapes, I think both you and I would not have pegged them as tier 2
Well,
level
they're
players.
less. Well, I think you could pick some of them for that roster for rosters like that. I think like Taco honestly like had a good idea with like how to go with it because he had players like Rosestone and Spawn who are more experienced, and then some of the newer pieces like Onet and Lunacia. Supernova picked a bunch of rookies. I mean, and we don't have to continue to
We don't have to
bash
harp
these
on it too
orgs
much.
after
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
already been demoted, but it is something to keep in mind, and hopefully. I don't necessarily think it's the format, but maybe it is a little bit, and we'll see what happens going into this.
Yeah, I do feel like a month is a long time for these teams to not play. But at the same time, like
you do have to like play through the whole
boom
playoffs.
like that. Like you got to take it seriously. If you want to play pro League of Legends, which I'd assume most people playing in tier 2 do, you've got to be a professional about it. And I know we struggle with that here in North America, well, in League of Legends in general, and esports, but like come on guys, like let's get it together.
Yeah, let's continue on here. Talk about some potentially good news as we have one of our old friends in General Sniper signing with 100 Thieves LCS team, at least reportedly at the moment. Hawk, this is a player that we've watched grow from tier 3 up to now LCS in 2024. What are we to expect out of this 17-year-old in his first split?
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting that you say that this is potentially good news because honestly, I feel very what's a good word, trepidatious perhaps about this announcement. In that, look, any player getting promoted from Challengers League or not Challengers League in Sniper's case, but from that level, North American players is awesome, and I consider that a win for this offseason. When I've said multiple times, I think players like APN and Insanity have proved that there is talent in North America. However, I think Sniper is incredibly talented. This guy's mechanics are off the charts. Was one of the better top laners in 2023 spring NACL. Was not one of the absolute best top laners in 2023 spring NACL. And he's a very young player. And I'm worried that Sniper might not be ready yet. And 100 Thieves is just trying to ride the Sniper brand, Sniper hype. I feel like a lot of people see this guy as the North American Caps. If anyone remembers when Caps started playing professionally in LAC back in at the time EU LCS in 2017 on Fnatic, people were calling him Baby Faker as first game. And it was a big narrative to uphold, and Caps did it. I'm a little bit worried that Sniper is going to be held to similar expectations where I'm going to be honest, I don't think Sniper's that good. He's really good, but I don't think he's that good. And so that is where my reservations lie about this announcement.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's not pretend to be surprised. I feel like we all knew that this was the game plan for 100 Thieves coming in.
100 Thieves knew this was going to happen when they signed him at the beginning of 2022 to be 100 Thieves next. We knew this was going to happen. Yeah.
So here he is. The time has arrived. However, it is important to note that some of the situations around everything have changed since that plan, I think, was kind of set in motion. The biggest one is that Sniper didn't get a full split to play in the summer. The 100 Thieves dropped their whole
he also just did not play competitive for a split. That's a good point to bring up, too.
So he spent his whole summer split in Korea, playing Korean solo queue, which obviously I think is great practice for any player. We've seen that time and time again. But is it enough? Like, is having that competitive experience more important? I think potentially. Think of a player like APA who struggled a little bit in spring, finally became very solidly the best mid laner after being kind of like a top tier mid laner, maybe like top 4 or 5 in the spring split, and now he's going to Worlds. And so for a player like Sniper, we have to just make sure that we have our expectations set in the right place about a player like this. He was probably like a top 5 top laner in challengers, and that is enough sometimes for people. You think of Philip going up to FlyQuest and performing admirably. And I just hope to God that 100 Thieves gives this kid a little bit more patience than what we've seen from them in the past, because you know what happened to their last young top laner that they promoted? He was kind of pushed out of the way and didn't want to play anymore, and 100 Thieves kind of let go of him. And so if you're bringing this kid up, you still have Busio up on your LCS team. They need to set their expectations.
Playing alongside Doublelift, most likely, by the way. There's been no indication that he's going to retire. He still could, but this is like the NA GOAT paired with a bunch of fucking rookies is what it's looking like 100 Thieves is going to be. I want to point that out as well.
Yeah, and I think a problem potentially with the way that 100 Thieves have set up their team in years past, or especially last year, was that they had these rookies on a team that was so bent on winning the entire thing from Split 1. Like, their goal was to create a talent winner, a split winner from the first step. And I think when you have now that you have Sniper and Busio, I say should probably go a little bit younger. Try to look towards like a 2-year plan even. Griffin just turned 17 as well. Maybe that's somebody you want to stick in there. Although it's going straight from tier 3 to tier 1 without any time in between might
He's
be a
been
little bit
playing
riskier.
Korean try.
But
Honestly, this might be a blazing hot take. I think Griffin is that good. You know, I was talking about like I'm
well,
worried about the
that's the thing.
expectations surrounding Sniper.
If we
I think
said
Griffin is that good.
I will say though, Sniper and Griffin both were very, very top of their
Yeah,
level in tier 3. Who
that's true.
know? Like obviously, like that was a little bit different for Sniper coming into tier 2. So
Yeah, you're
I
right.
just I hope they commit a little bit more to the developmental movement and to Sniper as a whole. That's
Yeah,
kind of the biggest thing I want to take away from this.
I so fully agree with that. Like what happened to Tenacity is a bit of a shame. And you know, like the one devil's advocate I'll give is like you never know like what Tenacity's motivation and stuff was like behind the scenes. Did he actually want to play pro? Like maybe he was just wanted to stream. Like there's stuff like that. But yeah, he wasn't really given a fair shake, especially after all the hype surrounding him. But I just feel like people see when people talk about NA talent, I think one of the names that really comes up is General Sniper. Even to the casual fan, they hear General Sniper and they think he's the prodigy. He's the guy that made Challenger when he was 13, and he's going to be the guy that brings NA talent into this new era in 2024, right? And he could do that. He could be that good. And maybe he is. Again, like we have not seen mechanics like Snipers in a while. But also he might not. And I'm just worried about the expectations surrounding this player. And I hope, you know, if he's just kind of like a top laner in the LCS, I hope people don't just start making the NA talent lull debate go towards Sniper. Because I don't think that I think it's disingenuous to every other player in tier 2 in this region that has proven themselves and looked really good or not, right? Like there's talent other than Sniper. And this is just a kid. So, you know, I'm wishing him the best. And if he proves that he is that goddamn good, then I would love to eat my words here. I'm just not sure he's ready.
Yeah, we'll see. I
But
mean,
we'll see
I
what
think
happens.
if my expectations probably would be like a middle of the pack LCS top laner in spring, show some promise, also have some maybe not as good games, and then in the summer, as he has more experience, probably upward trajectory towards the top of the table. But I don't think we should have the expectation that he will be the best player in the league coming in because that's just
Yeah,
not fair to him.
like if he's not at finals weekend next spring split, if I see like NA talent XD 100 Thieves XD in Twitch chat, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
I mean, if
And I know I
anything,
will, but
that's more of a knock to what 100 Thieves has become since some of their old management has left. And so
yeah,
I'll leave it at that. We'll see
yeah,
what happens. I think they have another year to prove themselves after what I think they would also say was a bit of a disaster in 2023.
yeah.
We can move on to our next question here as we talk still about some LCS orgs, but maybe in a little bit more of a negative light. It was announced that Evil Genius's challengers not be in the NACL for 2024 spring. And now that the requirement is gone, it was great props to EG, I think specifically Kelsey and Raz and the rest of the coaching staff for believing in the players and giving them a chance to compete after they promised them the opportunity to compete. But I think everyone kind of saw this coming, the way that EG has kind of looked over these last couple of months in terms of optics and the like, other than,
Yeah,
of course,
it's crazy, man.
some of the people on the coaching staff, which we
It's
like.
crazy how a team can win a world championship in Valorant and still be despised by the community. That takes skill, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. There are two other teams hosted by LCS organizations currently in the NACL, Team Liquid and FlyQuest. Hawk, do you think they stay in the Challengers League, or will we be completely independent for 2024?
No, I don't think anyone stays. I'm gonna keep it straight up. I would love to cope about this. I would love to say that like Team Liquid has reason to stay because they just promoted their mid laner and made worlds with like NA talent. Like woo, like kumbaya, guys. Let's hold hands and sing songs. But like it's not gonna happen. These orgs are all gonna pull out, and that's gonna be that. And it's gonna be what once was Academy isn't gonna cease to exist, and we're gonna have a Challenger series with no promotion relegation in the LCS. And it's still gonna be good. I still think players are gonna get their shots and everything. And at this point, I think like the damning of like any direct to LCS pipeline through the organizations themselves came from last split. But yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna stay. Like I'm not gonna go about this. I think Team Liquid and Fly are gonna be gone, and we're gonna hear about that in the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, you go back to when this announcement all happened, like I guess now 4 months ago, which is a little bit crazy to think about. And we see videos from Steve and from Papa Smithy, and the biggest thing that they said was, "We're doing this to help the players out. We still believe in talent development, but we want to have more conversations about how we can approach this in a more efficient and more effective way."
Yeah.
Not gonna lie to you, Hawk. I haven't heard many of those conversations over the last few
Well,
months. So I don't know. It seems so obvious that having a spot in tier 2 is helpful for these teams. APA literally promoted to them halfway through the split and is now playing at Worlds. FlyQuest will literally have, I think, of one of the best AD carries in the entire league playing on their team next year in Masu because they kept him around and played him in Challengers League 2023. Direct promotions, and they're
and yet they're still gonna get rid of their teams. Isn't that crazy to
and
like talk about? Like,
and I know the biggest thing is money. Like these teams cost way more to run than a team like Fear or a team like Supernova, obviously. But that's just kind of how that works for people at this point, and it is a little bit sad to see. And I hope that we finally start getting some of those conversations started about how we can really, affiliate these organizations with each other, because we've seen other alternatives like things work. Like I think this is like the bare minimum, but DSG getting to stay with Cloud9 for the NACL finals was cool. It was a cool thing to see. AOE partnering with Golden Guardians and Spring Split was a cool thing to see, where you didn't have to spend necessarily as much money, but you could still kind of have that connection. Finding opportunities like that, I think, is going to be important. If this isn't going to happen, because as
yeah.
you said, I do not see it
And
happening.
I just don't. And I want to caveat this too. I have no doubt in my mind that people like Spawn over on Team Liquid are so committed to their players and to talent development. But I also have no doubt in my mind that TL Steve and Magic Johnson don't want to foot the bill. You know what I mean? Like that's just the reality. And so I don't think it matters how successful Team Liquid Academy was this year, Team Liquid Challengers was this year. That is like pretty much the ultimate Challengers League success story you could have with APA, their team being competitive in both splits. Like they had something special with that team, and credit to the staff for putting that together, credit to the players, but it's just not going to happen. And so yeah, I'm sure that the teams will remain committed to talent development when it's not on their dime. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I do like the point you brought up, Hawk.
No, I'm not usually a doomer on this show too, by the
No,
way, I feel like,
I
but
like the point you brought up, where it's weird that we have a Challenger series now with no LCS affiliates and also no promotion.
yeah.
I mean, obviously this has been a controversial topic in the esports scene recently. I would love to see like an Ascension style format where you can like send two organizations up kind of as temporary slots, and like the other 10 LCS orgs are still fixed. So you can get some like rotations in and out depending on like who performs well in the NACL. Maybe that's in the works for formatting,
Now,
but
well, I
we'll
do
see.
want to say, I read like a few weeks ago, I want to say that the LCS has given teams like the option to not have to pay their like franchising dues. I don't exactly know like the linguistics behind this, but
Me neither.
something about franchising is getting like kind of rolled back a little bit. Now, whether or not that's just really like a way to save money and nothing else, it might be that. However, I do wonder if this like franchising model as we know it is going to be broken down a little bit. I have no idea. That is pure speculation, but that's yeah, I just wonder if like it's like, hey, teams, you could not have to pay us money for your franchising spot anymore. But, like I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, this is kind of the off-season vibe, right? Kind of like a we'll see until next time once changes get announced, but fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Move on to our last topic here, as not necessarily fully NACL related, but the Disguise draft happened a couple of days ago, right before the last matchup in the NACL promotion tournament, where Skara, Yasuo, Aframu, and Sneaky all got to draft teams full of streamers, LCS players, and NACL players. We don't have the full rosters to show you guys. You can go over to DSG's Twitch channel, or we'll probably read them out as we go through. But Hawk, which captain we could say this in a negative way. Which captain griefed the worst out of the draft?
Which one
Because
grieved? Look, I think there's two ways to answer this question. There's the obvious, like, which one just has the worst team? But Grace, I'm gonna like come off the top rope with this take. I think that there's two teams that are obviously the best. And Aframu is one of them, and he griefed the draft so fucking hard. The reason being is I think Aframu has the 5 best players pound for pound on his team. Like Aframu's team, if you just look at the names, is the best. It's Aframu, Darshan, Insanity, Perry, and Golden Glue. I think like that's some really good League of Legends players. But he's gonna make someone off roll. So like he fucked it up. You know, like Aframu got these great players, but someone's gonna have to off roll. And so I think Yasuo's team is just gonna be better now because I think he's got the second best like list of players and everyone's on roll.
it is crazy that literally
I'm
nobody.
so sad.
Like only one of the 4 teams was able to pick everybody in like a role that they
It's
you know
crazy.
traditionally play, and it's funny because yeah, some of them didn't listen at all. Like the rule where you had all the streamers had to be picked, which obviously I understand because you need the highest viewership, most content possible. Kind of sandbagged some of the team, like kind of shot some of the teams in the knee a little bit because
that kind of screwed them.
yeah, because you had like
There was,
5
like,
support
4
players,
support
3 mid
streamers, yeah.
laners, and like 1 top laner in Lorlo or something like that. So
Yeah.
it was tough. I think
Yeah.
Scar griefed the hardest. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Scar's the worst team.
That
I mean, like,
team.
like if we're going grief the hardest, as in like just has a bad team at Scara. I was just trying to be different by saying like Afro put himself in a good position and then fucked it up. Yeah, it's Scara.
Okay, Scara has himself, Xmithie, Shifter, Revenge, and Breezy. 2 mid laners, a top laner. So no ADC. So like Scara's gonna have to play AD carry, I guess, on this team. I don't know how much League of Legends Xmithie and Shifter have been playing recently. I know Xmithie's like a coach right now, but Shifter kind of is like a content creator now, which is good for him, of course. I don't know how much League
like
he's
he
been
doesn't
playing
even
recently.
like wasn't when they did the Delta Fox show match a couple months ago. Wasn't Shifter like gold 4 or something? Like, am I crazy? I might be slandering him, but I'm pretty sure that's
wouldn't be surprised. I think Sneaky's team also is a little questionable. I do remember though.
Are you ready for stunt mid?
Honestly, like if Stunt I know Stunt like is pretty good. Like he has pretty good hands. He loves the enchanters, has good hands. If he can play mid, maybe this team's not bad because I know Balls is one of the guys that just is always like pretty solid, even though he like hasn't played competitively in like 6 years.
He's also only like diamond, but yeah, I mean Balls is like okay. Like I think Sneaky Smoothie bot lane and then Speaka jungle is like a pretty good core if the solo lanes could keep it together.
Yeah. I agree. And
but like watching Stunt mid against Insanity or something, like I don't know, man. That might be a little tough.
I mean, I think Darshan is probably the best option in terms of top laners, like streamers that you could have gotten. So yeah, I like that. I think Lorlo's also really good, actually.
Lorlo's are actually a pretty good player. Like as far as like pure mechanics, Lorlo's pretty good.
And then you have Insanity pairing Golden Glue. Like I think it's easier to have like Golden Glue off roll than
I know.
Like,
I know. Aframu was saying like, oh, the most flexible player in like the LCS Insanity could AD carry. But like, if I'm Aframu, I put Insanity mid so he can do his thing, and it's like, hey, Golden Glue, Coach Golden Glue, show us how it's done on Marksman.
Aframu swaps back to AD carry and Golden Glue plays support.
The 2012 like swap.
Yeah, back in the day, the OG
with Golden Glue support. That'd be crazy. But dude, imagine if your top side is Darshan and Sanity Perry though. Like this is why I'm saying they griefed. If they had a real ADC, like that top side.
Yeah, but then that's
so
the thing.
smoky.
Like you needed the streamer, and there was no streamer AD carry.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
So, format was a little interesting, but that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles at the end of the day. That's gonna do it for our headlines. Unless you have anything else to say, Hawk. I mean,
I do not.
We had some good conversations, and I think we're ready for our sit down with LiT Esports Messages. We are here once again with LiT Esports mid laner Messages on a different team, now promoted into the NACL. This is also our first 2-time guest. So Messages, welcome back to the show. Do you feel a little bit more powerful now? You're here by yourself. You're here with the 2 of us now. And also, you're now an NACL player.
Yeah, I think yeah, I do feel more powerful. And yeah, I'm obviously glad to be back. I love the show. And yeah, you guys are 2 favorite casters, so you know, anything with you guys I'm down to be involved with.
We were talking
So
earlier, and you were saying that you're a big fan of the show, and we really appreciate that. It's always so cool when players like come out and say like, oh, like I like listen to you guys and actually watch all the content. It means a lot.
it
Yeah.
does. It does mean a lot. It's so nice. Yeah, but seriously, welcome back. You're saying you feel more, maybe a little bit more important now, right? You're the one that's promoted. Like we had to talk just to you. Definitely not because you called us out on Twitter or anything. But no, I'm joking, of course. But I mean, before we get into like everything, I don't know how is like the last week been for you? I'm sure it's been maybe a little bit surreal, a little bit like crazy. We'll get more into all the promotion stuff, but just like how have you been feeling?
I mean, I even tweeted it earlier. Like, it's been 7 days since I promoted, and it just doesn't feel real. Like, it still doesn't feel real. Like, when I try to process that in my head, it doesn't make sense to me that like I'm in the tier 2 space on a spot that I got by playing. Like, I didn't just get this spot from like, oh, hey, you did really good in this trout. Here's a spot. No, like I played the entire tournament myself and got it. So
Yeah.
that's what's even crazier.
I think the last time we talked to you was right before that big native series versus Maryville, and obviously that's unfortunately where the spring split ended. But I think overall, would call the qualifier run for yourself as an individual in spring to be a pretty big success in terms of putting you out on the map and things like that. What was that kind of experience like? Obviously, I think you've talked about it in past before, but just kind of getting closure on since the last time we got to talk to you here on Salty Runback.
Mm, I think spring it definitely showed that I was a lot better from when I played on third party. I think like third party was like when people started to be like, this guy might be a little good, but on native people were like, well, this guy's like on a full team of veterans other than Shocky, and he's still like putting up numbers. So people started looking at me more then. Um, and yeah, I think that boosted my ego a lot to know that it wasn't just like the fan and scooped and rhino show. It was like the you know kind of the messages scooped and you know kind of the goats that everybody else that was just around. That's kind of how I saw native. So, but yeah, it definitely did boost my ego a lot and gave me a
Yeah.
lot more confidence going into summer.
I feel like you gotta have a little bit of an ego in esports, like when as a player or anything, coach, whoever you are, like a little bit of healthy ego is good, and so it's awesome to hear. And so then moving into summer, just tell us a little bit about joining LiT Esports, and sort of how this split has gone. Because I mean, to be frank, it's not been the smoothest split for your all squad. We talked about this a bit with Dragoon as well. So just walk us through everything that sort of went on.
Um. Okay, so you want the full details, like even the players leaving and stuff like that?
I mean, whatever,
Oh,
whatever is
okay.
important to you, really.
Oh, okay,
Tell
okay.
us your
Oh
story.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean we can start off just like how did obviously like promotion. Yeah, you played in the promotion tournament for a couple of series, went the way that they did. But then afterwards, finding this group of players on LiT, two duos of like people that played together in spring, and then you. What was that like? Kind of getting picked up by that team.
Wow, I never saw it like that actually. It's two duos, Dragoon, Kizno, and then Sajid Che. Wait,
Yeah,
I never thought of it like that.
and then you were kind of like the other guy as well. Like,
Yeah.
I was just bloking around. I was just there.
You could say you were the third party.
Yeah, you were the third
Oh
party
my
in there. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, yeah, I think that roster, like in our heads, we were kind of getting supernovaed. Like that was like the thing that was going on in the off season. We were kind of getting like, hey, Supernova's like, hey, we're kind of here. We're willing to sign you and Dragoon. We kind of got rid of Kizno, and then me and Dragoon were like, why did you get rid of Kizno? We would play if Kizno was there. And then they kind of messed with us a little bit more and like kept messaging us. And then like the last few days before the OQs like was official, Fawn was like, all right, I'll get you guys a sponsor, and it's you, Dragoon, Kizno, Che, and Sajed, like, you down? And I was just like, it's Dragoon down? And Dragoon was like, yeah, I'm down. And I was like, all right, let's fucking go, let's send it.
Hell
So
yeah.
that's
So
just how
they
it happened.
so the package you guys brought into the offseason was you and Dragoon. You guys kind of agreed to you wanted to play together on a team. Was that kind of how it went?
I really wanted to just play with Sajed actually. I am a big fan. I mean, Sajid's like my really good friend, and wanted to play with Sajid ever since I played with him on Trance's Tyrants. That was my come up.
Oh my
Way,
gosh.
way back.
That's a throwback. Yeah.
Yeah. Trance's Tyrants. He was my jungler though. He was not my
Was that like
ADC.
was that like a UPL team that you guys were on?
No, it was just
Like an
like
off-season team or?
we just did tournaments with
Oh,
Sam's
okay. Oh,
Duel.
that's like a summer split team. Oh man, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was Coic. I don't know if you guys did
Yeah,
some
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of yeah.
I remember Koic.
Okay, so yeah, so it's Koic, Sajid in jungle, and then me, and then Samus Duel, and then Spinum or Wounds.
Dang.
Yeah,
What
and
a
then we kind of just did tournaments. Before Sajid though, we had Yukino Cat. That was our jungler. Nobody knew who Yukino Cat was. And other than Samus Duel, so that was our squad before though. And Yukino and me would just run every single team we ever saw. It would just be me and him, just absolutely
Makes sense.
destroying
That's a
everybody.
crazy mid jungle duo. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I think I've said this before. Sorry, I'll let you continue in a minute. But I've said this
No, you're good.
before. But hearing these stories is like listening to people talk about how like rock bands formed, where it's like, yeah, you know, we were playing way before people knew who we were. That's just I love that.
Yeah, you hear all like the underground scrim teams that also
Right.
formed.
Yeah,
Are there any other
like
are there any other like underground scrim teams that you played part of, like at like Worlds or anything like that you remember specifically like being pretty cool?
I mean, people know that maybe they don't know, but I've scrimmed with Immortals and EG before. Those were my two biggest ones, and that was just based off of like, oh, well, Chad was mostly the person that gave me the IMT one. Chad was like, hey, I think this guy's really good. We should play with him while our mid laner Balulu isn't here. So that was during spring, and you know, I was happy to get that opportunity. I was a little sad that they still played a Blaze Olive over me in the first week at NACL, but it's okay. Listen, no, I'm not going to be too salty about
Well,
that.
would they have to would they have would Native have had to drop you then, like to play with
No,
then, or would it just be like kind of a rental thing?
it was just a rental thing. They were just gonna have to pay. I think they were just gonna have to pay Native like a not even a lot. Like I promise you, it was not gonna be a lot. And that was all that was gonna happen. And then they would have me for as long as they wanted me. And I was putting up numbers, by the way. I wasn't just like there. Oh, you should see some of the plays I was doing to these guys. I was going crazy. Some of them ended up on my TikTok. Like that was how crazy they were.
hell yeah.
And then yeah, but I was actually putting up numbers. Like I was going crazy. And I was absolutely really mad that I was a little salty. I'm not gonna lie. At the moment, I was salty. Now I'm not, obviously, because I promoted. If I didn't promote, I'd still be mad. but yeah, I was just happy that I got the opportunity, and you know, my comms got a lot better. Kind of game knowledge got a little better, and then my hands, I knew that I still had it. I knew I had it. So
Yeah. That's always it's always really interesting to hear like, oh, this player got some time like behind the scenes to scrim, like because that doesn't normally get publicized, but then you know you hear it behind the scenes, you'll hear it mentioned on broadcast a couple of times. Like a name that I remember was like Young, who was like scrimming with Team Liquid, I think back in 2022, and now he's won the split, and so
yeah.
that is stuff like that, just like kind of getting that experience is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's also like very important for a lot of amateur players to get this experience. I think it carries you a long way, and it gives you a lot more publicity that players like won't really. They'll remember your name, like if they scrimmed with you and they're like, dude, this guy went kind of crazy. You know, maybe he's actually good. And then you know you see him in solo queue and they're like, wow, he's still good. And then you know you'll talk and you add each other, follow each other, do stuff like that. So yeah.
So, you know, all the underground scrims happen and everything. We end up on LiT as we talked about, and so I know Dragoon said that basically before promotion, like you all hadn't hit your final form yet. I sort of want to hear your take on your performance in the majority of the summer split in qualifiers, and then moving towards promotion. How were things sort of changing for you all? How were you leveling up and all of that?
So I'll go to Spring first. Let me go back one.
Okay, yeah, go
Spring,
for it.
Shay kind of left.
Oh,
Shay,
the
or
first qualifier, you mean?
yeah,
Not
first qualifier.
spring. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, spring. It's just first qualifier. Yes.
First qualifier of summer.
Yes. Sorry, Che trying to kind of mental boomed with us. After we lost the Winthrop series, we were all really sad, and I was really disappointed in myself. My collie game was awful. and then the other game that I just totally griefed out of my mind was awful. And I don't feel too personal for mental booming Che, but you know, I have to take a little bit of some responsibility. I think he thought my gameplay was really bad, and so that's the reason why he left. And I think that's one reason why I felt like I did so much better in summer than, or sorry, the second one than the first one. Like if you looked at my results in the first one, you'd be like, wow, Messages is just like, you know, he's not the same. He's not the same guy that he was before on native. But in in summer, the second one, I really just turned it up full throttle because I felt a little sad that Jay left, and I didn't want to disappoint everyone like I was doing. So I kind of I turned it up for the second one and then the promotion tournament. Yeah, and then the whole Sajed thing kind of sucked as well though. To go into the promotion tournament, that was just Sajed also realized that he fucked up. Sorry, I probably shouldn't curse, but
No,
he
you're
does
good.
realize.
Oh, you.
Okay,
This is
sorry.
not an official broadcast. You're welcome to curse
Okay.
as much as you want. Yeah, you're
Okay.
good.
Yeah, he realized he messed up, and you know, I felt really bad that we did leave him. But I mean, he left us. Let's be honest. But you know, I'm happy that Rocco got the chance, and he was very good. Obviously, I mean, as everybody saw. So it was just a minor side grade. And yeah, I think we all kind of hit our strides at different times. I think Che, Sajed, and Dragoon mostly hit it in spring. Me and Kizno were kind of lacking. And then summer though, me, Kizno, and Sajed kind of turned that up like really hard. And then in the promotion tournament, I think we all just turned it up with Plux. Plux went kind of V9.
But when you guys are in a position like that where I feel like there's a lot of high expectations for LiT coming into the summer split. I personally thought you guys like had one of the stronger rosters on paper compared, you know, Mirage Alliance definitely was up there, but then other than that, it was I thought it was probably you or TA. Like in terms of maybe not meeting some of those expectations, you know, going down in quarters, obviously with a new roster, does that weigh on you guys at all? Because this is, you guys know you're gonna promote, and like having that kind of lower momentum coming in, where even though you made it in as the 4th seed, because like you kind of finished in the quarterfinal space, maybe people were a little bit down on you. Does that affect you guys at all in a way?
Not really, because we know that Winthrop is the best team in the top 4 versus us. Like, if we would have played against TA or Mirage, I promise you those games would have been pretty easy. But I think Winthrop counters the idea of what we want to play and how we want to do. It quite literally are just not the better team. I wouldn't say better, but they're just our counters. Like they got it in them. And we don't know how to really beat them. But I think it's kind of crazy that we did take them to game 3 with only 2 scrims with Rocco. I thought it was a little embarrassing, but they still 2-1'd us. So
Oof, I mean, not gonna lie, man. Those games were rough on both sides a little bit.
yeah, those games were okay. Listen, we only had 2 scrims, and we were tilted as balls. So you know, you can blame us though. We kind of choked the bag. We fumbled it. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, fortunately, that minor bag fumble did not prevent you all from reaching promotion tournament, right? Like, regardless of anything that happened throughout the course of both the qualifiers, you all did make it. I think it's fair to say you all were definitely seen as an underdog by most people. I know Grapes was a huge LiT truther.
Well,
he was gassing you guys up the
yeah,
whole time.
yeah,
But
in the summer at the start of the split for sure, but then
It's okay.
yeah, I saw a quarterfinal finish. I was like, if this team, you know, if they figure it out in these next 2 weeks, then they'll have a chance. But
Okay.
you know, who knows? You can't always rely on that. You know.
Grapes, I'm not gonna let you off the hook. You put us going 0-2 twice.
That I did, because not gonna, to be fair, the game that we saw on our screens for that period of time was not great. But I mean, obviously something did change.
Yeah.
In those.
Because you all
2
shocked
weeks.
everyone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was so. Let's you know, this is what everyone wants to hear about, right? Like promotion tournament, first series against
hold on,
Mirage
hold on.
Alliance. Oh, what?
Well,
Yeah,
we gotta if you gotta walk us through like the anime training arc going into the tournament.
Oh, of
because
course,
something,
right. Yeah,
something
yeah.
happened. You guys
What
went
was
from
like? What was the God Scrim where like suddenly you guys became the master builder, right? Like when was that moment?
Yeah, I mean, from dying 40 times in a game versus Winthrop to 2-0ing Mirage Alliance. That's a pretty big jump, you know?
Wait, did we actually die 40 times?
I don't know, man. It was close. I'm not gonna
Oh my
lie.
god, we suck.
I'm gonna check real quick, but go
Oh
on.
my god, that is so gross. We suck, man. Wow. Yeah, I think okay, so the training arc was we heard that every single scrim or every single team did not scrim before the promotion tournament. They actually all took 2-week breaks. So that was like a really big confidence booster because we didn't stop scrimming. We just had internal scrims with a scrim team with Shocky, Fan, Rain, Lunar, and Boruto. It was basically just CCG. Like, let's be honest.
Right.
But that was the team we were kind of scrimming against, and they would swap out with Toasty Alex and Rain. So I was playing against like a bunch of different blokes in the mid lane. But that was kind of the training arc. Like we were just like, let's just play against Taki's like random 5 and let's see what we can do. And then yeah, we were kind of just cooking. And we then realized that, these guys are gonna take breaks. We then heard that Supernova and Taco were just perma scrimming each other, like every single day, 5 blocks, and one of them was just running it every single time. And then we kind of got more confidence going into it as well. And then we heard that also Mirage got 4-0'd by Winthrop in scrims. And we versus Winthrop in scrims though, we would stomp them. It was actually more that we won than we lost. But when we heard they got 4-0'd, we were like, they are tilted to all belief. Like they're not going to scrim for multiple days coming to the tournament. It's going to be a piece of cake. And that was kind of our head, like going into the first game at least versus Mirage, with that mentality that they lost to Winthrop in scrims, they have to be bad. So, and then that's how that 2-0 happened. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I just checked really quick. It was 82 combined deaths across those 3 games for you guys. So, 28, 27, and then 28 when you guys lost that 3rd game. So,
not quite 40. Not quite 40 in one game, but
yeah,
it's
not
a hefty amount.
Nyarko was busy on that call. He was calling a lot of fights.
Oh no.
Sorry.
I'm gonna have some talks with some people after this.
No. Listen.
It's all in the past.
It's all in the past. You guys
you promoted
exactly, and that's what we're here to talk about. Not
right.
Yes.
I didn't mean to flame you guys.
No. You didn't flame us. But I'm gonna tell Rocka that we died 28 times, and hopefully it does something to him. I blame him.
I love it so much. So after dying 28 times, 3 games in a row, we go to promotion tournament. We have our training arc. We internal scrim. Mirage Alliance is tilted, and I mean we talked about this on our show. We viewed Mirage Alliance, and I think a lot of people did, as the favorites of the entire promotion tournament. So not only are they seen as this overwhelming favorite, you all are seen as underdogs. It is a incredibly, seemingly lopsided matchup heading in to the promotion tournament. And then you all shocked the entirety of the region by blowing them out of the water. Walk us through that series and then the rest of promotion, where you all, against I think all odds that were anticipated, did not drop a series.
Yeah, I think before I do talk about that, I think it was kind of crazy that we actually just did not drop a single series. And before we played Supernova, we didn't drop a single game.
Yeah.
We did only play 4 games, but we didn't drop a single game. And it didn't even look close. Like, it didn't look like, oh, we made a huge comeback. Like, no, those games were just stomps. Like, there's not much to them. They were not close games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I think is
that Taco series is fun.
Yes, that
Taco you guys smurfed pretty hard both of those games. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, so I think the Mirage series though, first, we heard that they're tilted, right? We know that, and then we just kind of had a realization that Sudsy can only play one champion, being LeBlanc, and LeBlanc's kind of my kryptonite. Hopefully nobody hears that. LeBlanc is my kryptonite. You play this champion, I am more likely to go 15 deaths than any other player. You could, like, even one of you guys subbing in, like not gonna flame your skill, but like
No, you can't.
No,
that's the-
you're totally valid for this.
but like
You're
that's
also
that's
wrong because I
that's
would
the
die
difference.
20. I don't know how to play that champion. I would die 20,000 times to you in lane.
Well,
Like nonstop.
I'd get run by any LeBlanc. It doesn't matter if it's bronze, silver, gold, diamond. Like I just can't. I don't know what the fuck the champion does. I have no. It doesn't like process in my brain. So, I was just like, yo, ban the shit on. Like I promise you, you ban it. Pick me a zero. Pick me something. I will run this guy into the ground.
Yeah, you
And
guys
then
B1 to 0 twice that series.
yes, yeah, we did B1 zero twice, and then his answer was Ziggs. And as soon as I saw Ziggs, I was like, I know for damn sure Neo ain't taking that. And I was like, if Sudsy's on Ziggs, he's just gonna be able to bully me for the lane, but I'm just gonna be the GOAT for the rest of the game. Like I'm not really scared of it. So I was just like, all right, I think the series is won. And then I had some crazy zero fights. I'm not gonna lie. Some of those zero fights I was playing out of my fucking mind. And I think
Yeah.
that was like one of the reasons why we were able to like go and destroy them a lot harder, because those fights should not have been won, but for some reason I had it in me and I just did it. So yeah.
You guys were sneakily like one of the more creative teams in the entire tournament
Yeah.
during draft. Like you had the Vayne Tarek in game 1. You had like you played Lucian and Karma and Yon and like
And
all these
Wait,
interesting
Also,
mid
if
laners.
you're worried about people like listening on this podcast about like LeBlanc, Kryptonite, Secret Tech, or whatever, Dragoon basically like we leaked all of this man's strats the night before the games, and then it did not matter. So, like,
That is true. That is true. I saw so many of you guys' quote retweets. It was like, and then it was just like the little Aoi clip, or then Mordecai's just like, hey, wow, he just actually leaked everything.
we straight up talked about all of his pocket picks, and then he played every single one. It was wild. Yeah.
Funny thing, actually, right before I'll give you the chance messages, but right after we stopped recording, we asked Dragoon like, "Yo, is there anything
Yeah.
else like you guys are planning?" He's like, "Guys, Volley Bear is OP," and then you saw you guys pick it a bunch of times as well. So, man, could have been more.
One thing I will say, what did Mirage start playing every single game after they lost to Rocco? Caitlyn. They
That is true.
I
It's
clicked for them.
true.
They're like, wait, LiT is just better than us, but is it they're better than us, or is their drafts just 10 times ours? So then they just started playing Caitlyn and they started winning every single game. And I was like, yo, if Rocco won one game on Caitlyn, bro, that should be banned. Why is Neo's Caitlyn not being banned? Like I was just like, that's crazy, just levels of disrespect though. And then okay. Also, sneakily, the most creative. We definitely were the most by far. I don't think there's a single team that had like any creative picks at all. I'm not gonna lie, everybody was fucking boring this.
Yeah, like Alorum
Yes.
played his things, Quacker played his picks, and that was basically it. I feel like.
Yeah, but we
And
had the
Shaco support
Nasus.
was pretty creative.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later. Continue.
Oh, oh. If I speak, I will be yeah, but I feel like our drafts have always been crazy though. Even when people used to watch us in the OQs, right? Like we still played the Nasus, still played the the Vayne and shit with Sajjet though, not with Rocco.
That's
and then
true, actually.
yeah, and then the Mordekaiser, it's kind of just a Dragoon thing, and then the Lowy's also maybe a Dragoon thing, more of like thing he's cooking up. But the Volley Bear is definitely like something fallen solid. And he was like, this shit is broken, and then we're like, don't feel like you're cooking too much. He's like, trust me, play a game on it. And then we started playing games. Kizno and Dragoon started playing games. They're like, all right, you know what? You're valid. This shit is OP as fuck. And then you just kind of just started picking it every single game. And then people just started banning it versus us. Supernova banned it every single game versus us because they realized that it was actually broken. So, we shift the meta. That's what we do here at LiT. Yeah.
I love that so much. Well, yeah, I mean, like, dude, promotion was just so exciting to see, and I do want to talk a little bit more about what promoting does mean for you specifically, because I know last time we spoke, you actually opened up to us a little bit about sort of some of the struggles that you've had, and the pressure that you felt playing on native, with hopes and aspirations of making promotion. And I think oftentimes, being either a professional like esports athlete or someone that aspires to be such as yourself, is harder than sometimes people realize. So I sort of want to give you the floor and allow you to talk about what this milestone means for you and for your career and sort of your personal journey to getting there outside of everything in game.
I mean, I think to like start like my personal journey has just been to at least make tier two. One of the things I really strive for is being called a professional player, not a semi-pro. Like that's what I think tier two is. I think tier two is semi-pro,
Mm-hmm.
or tier three. Sorry, I think tier three is semi-pro, and then I think tier two is like you're professional. Like if this was normal, you would be in academy, you would be in LA, you'd be, you know, but
Right.
obviously things have changed. But so, that was my biggest goal though. I just wanted to be looked as a professional player. Like I made it. I did it. I did the one thing that I really wanted to accomplish, and I have that title. And nobody could take that away from me other than myself. Like that's it. People have to call me that. That's how I am. And that was like the one thing I really wanted though, is to be looked at and respected the same as other people were, and the same skill level as them. I have been for a long time, so I just wanted the same title as them though, and it's very important for me to get that for myself. And yeah, when it comes to like the pressure and everything, I think that's also, like you said, it's not something that people really understand.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard, uh, especially for myself, waking up at super early every day, and having to play these tournament matches while it's still super tired. Having to play against these really good players, um, and then also like having big expectations from yourself. Not only from me, but from other people on Twitter, or somewhat my friends, but just a lot of people see my name and they're like, this guy is gonna be good. He is good. He's proved it himself many times. So, uh, let's see what he can do on this team with, these three veterans on native, and then, oh, he's on a more veteran role on lit. So, what can he do? And it was really challenging, especially swapping from being the person that would never talk on native to being the person that only talks on lit. um and it's just really draining, I think, with all the ups and downs. The Siri loses, and then a lot of scandals happened this one, I'm not gonna lie. Kind of some things went down, and that was also very hard for me though, mentally, to get over. That whole cold hearted thing really, I think, really destroyed me mentally, for a few days until some things were solved. But that really took a blow at my heart, because I felt like all the things that I was really training for and all the things I really wanted were going to be robbed because people could cheat and get away with it, and let this shit slide, and there's nobody doing anything about it. Like, and that was the hardest point, I think, this entire split for me, is like almost being robbed of almost this interview, if you
Yeah.
really think about it like that. Like I could have been robbed of this entire storyline ever happening, just because people wanted to cheat.
Yeah.
um and yeah, I think those things like go underlooked. Like not really a lot of people see how hard it actually is to do this, and to have that aspiration, and go to tryouts even though you feel like you're not going to get the spot, and still show up. And then even those, like, those IMT and EG things, right? Like trying my hardest, like doing everything I can to possibly like prove to them that I get the spot, proving to them that I can get the spot, and I should, I deserve it. I feel like I deserved it. And then still being like, nah, sorry, like, we just don't want to do it. Like that stuff is really, it really hurts a lot, because it feels like you're not progressing. It just feels
Yeah.
like you're stagnant. You're not really doing anything. And that stuff is a little sad. But we just keep pushing forward. That's how we got here, right? So, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like something that really speaks to me, and probably a lot of people watching this, is that having great expectations and aspirations for yourself, and really pushing to make it. And it's amazing to hear that, through everything that's happened, you've fought through all of that, you've made it to this moment, and now you are here. as you said, you've achieved what you initially set out to do, which was reach tier 2, attain that mantle of professional player. And I want to go back to our second episode of Salty Runback ever when we drafted players. Grapes and I drafted players. And I remember I said, I drafted you Messages, and I said that Messages is a player that not too many people probably know right now, but they will by the end of the year. And you have now made tier 2. I think a lot of people are going to start to hear your name. So I just want to ask you, what do you want to tell those people now that are going to hear your name and that they're hopefully going to watch you and cheer for you next year in Challengers League? What would you like to say to them?
I mean, thank you for the support. I think that's like the one thing I would want to say. Um, and I think a lot of people don't really look at our native NA mid talent. I think that's like a really big thing that's not really brought upon, or even our development talent as a whole. And I think that players like, me in particular, but even APA, Sochi, these players, they're so good. And we are very good. Like, NA has talent, and I just hope that eventually it reaches the people's heads that, hey, maybe these guys do deserve a shot, because they are starting to prove that they are better than these imports, and they are better than these other people that we fly out and pay thousands, like hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars for, and they, just end up being the worst players ever. So, I just hope that eventually people do realize that Messages should be an LCS name eventually, because I will destroy in challengers. I'll be one of the best. I'm gonna keep striving for that. And I think people will, when they hear my name now, it would be more of a conversation of when will he be in LCS.
Man,
Yeah.
feels good, man. After I
That's
feel like
awesome.
it's been a wild ride for you in 2023, but we're very happy that it kind of ended in such a positive way for you guys. I mean, for Lit, I don't know how many of these conversations you guys have had yet, but is it seeming like you guys want to kind of stay together and play in 2024 as a team?
So I think for right now,
If
I
you guys
can
don't
just,
know yet, no worries at
well,
all.
I think
Wonder.
I can confirm myself definitely, and I think I can confirm Rocco 100%. I think we are full committed. This is something I would wake up, at night. I think, actually, let me derail real quick. I recently made a tweet, and it was like my girlfriend, she threw a surprise party for me. I don't know if you guys saw that, but like
Oh,
that
I
was really
did. That
cute.
was awesome. Yo, that
Yeah,
was
Yeah,
dude,
awesome.
that like made me cry. I was
yeah. But she also told me something that was like really crazy. It's like, um, I would go to nights like crying. Like some days I would just mentally be so out of it, because like the league was so hard. Like the OQs like were so mentally draining, it's so hard. And I didn't realize like how hard of a battle I actually fought. Like the entire journey from spring all the way here is like, it's so crazy. It still doesn't process in my brain, so like I can't even bring up like how many difficult things I went through. But like some days were just so bad, and then some days there was the total opposite. When you would beat like an upset team, or do really well in the OQs, and then I'd be so happy, and then like all those emotions just changing constantly and constantly were just, was so hard to deal with. Actually, it was insane. um but that's what made me think of like how hard of a journey it actually was. Like, my girlfriend really telling me like, you remember like when this happened? And I was like, no, I don't remember at all. And it's like, why don't I remember it? It's because so much more shit happened after that, right? So, but I'm very glad, you know to end it on such a positive note. I think also after the game, like I didn't like cheer like at all. Like this is just like an insight. Like I didn't, how like you had those clips of me like screaming like, yes, we fucking did it. Like, that Karmic clip had a little bit of that. It had me like screaming at the end like, yes, we did it. Oh my god, we did it. And then like after that though, I deafened, and I just started bawling my eyes out. I just could not. I was just so happy, and I was like, I instantly called my girlfriend, and I was just sitting there bawling my eyes out with her. And that like whole moment though, like I will just cherish. Like I got Sam called me, and he was just crying for me as well. Like that like whole moment, like, and everything leading up to that was just so heavy on my heart. And Yeah, I don't even know how I got to this conversation, but I just want to tell that.
All right.
But yeah. Um, but yes, I can confirm 2 players, and that would be me and Rocco. I think Dragoon is still a little on the fence. And Kizno, honestly, I got no clue what that guy's thinking.
Yeah,
I have no clue.
we always hear about like the roster shuffles happening. Like obviously, like a lot of the teams that promoted in last
Mm.
split, like their rosters look completely different. Obviously, there were some extenuating circumstances behind that, but it's good to see that you guys are with an org that supports you as players and is hopefully gonna make some good moves in next year.
Before we go, I want to say that LiT is an org that will never, or like, I hope that a lot of NACL teams do this, especially ones that promote. But if your player gets a spot, do not supernova them. Oh my God, that is so disgusting to ever see. Like, actually, it's so gross. And I hope that orgs never do that ever again. But, if a player gets a spot, it should be up to them and really whatever they want to do with it. And if you see a player leave on LiT, it is not the players that ever do it. It is not people that force them out. It is purely their choice.
Yeah.
So I
It
really,
seems like we have 2 orgs that kind of are on the same page with that. So that
Yeah.
promoted in this year, which I'm happy about.
yeah. But that was like the biggest thing is like, Plux, I think more or less wants to leave. And, I think, hey, listen, this guy has dedicated so much time to this and, he's had a standout career. And, but even himself, like he did it for us. He did it as a friend, but now he wants to kind of go to the next chapter. And there's nothing other than support that we can do because he's been a beast, right? And yeah, but that's all himself. That's how he feels. I mean, none of us want to pressure him into leaving. I'd love to play with Plex again, but it's his time to go, and we obviously support that. And so, we'll look for some new people or new bloke, but very happy to do it with him. And then hopefully, obviously he's very successful when it comes to like later on. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for the record, never apologize. When the interview is about you, never apologize for derailing the interview to talk about something that is important to you. Seriously. I
Okay.
appreciate you sharing that story. And it is great to hear all that about LiT and you. I mean, Grapes, I don't know if you have anything else, but I would say that was a fantastic interview. Like, messages, seriously. Congratulations from both of us again for an incredible journey throughout the entire year. We're incredibly proud of you for reaching it to the top of the mountain. Enjoy it. And obviously the climb not over. You still got LCS to shoot for, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, we'll have another interview once you're there.
right.
You know?
When you reach LCS, don't forget about us when you become famous. All right. So.
No. I would maybe if I ever do get LCS, then we should do it in person. That how it change.
Well,
True.
I don't
I'm
know
not
if I've got the
opposed.
money to fly out there. We'll see. We'll see
Listen,
about that.
listen,
We'll see.
Hey,
listen. If
I'll
I'm in,
be out there. I'll be
listen,
out
if
there.
I'm
That's
in,
the
if
plan
I'm
for
in
me.
LCS, like I might have the money to.
Yeah. You gotta like,
my
you gotta help
brother
me out
out,
a little
so,
bit.
hey.
Yeah. I got you.
Grapes, that's
Yeah.
implying we won't be casting LCS. My
No, well, I don't.
No,
Yeah,
we'll
this
see.
messages guy's pretty
You
good.
guys,
You
you
know what
guys
I
will
mean?
be there. You guys are. Actually, yeah, that's right. You guys will be right there. You guys will probably have my first interview, like as a player,
Right.
like my,
Mm-hmm.
You know,
We'll
why are
cast
we
your
even
first
trying to-
game. They'll put the
It's
Salty
just the
two of
Runback
us,
crew.
yeah.
They'll have watched this episode of Salty Runback,
Yes.
and like 2 years from now, when we're all on LCS or whatever, they'll be like, okay, like we got to put Hawk and Grapes on the messages debut. I love
Yes,
this wishful
exactly.
thinking that we've gone on, but yeah. Well. That'll probably do it from all of us. Messages, I'll open up real quick before we go. I know you already shouted out a few people. Anyone else that you want to mention? Any closing thoughts before we send it off?
I mean, yeah, shout out the people that I already talked to, right? My girlfriend, my team especially. And then, I think I'd want to say like, thanks to all the people that watch and kind of seeing the story, even if they don't fully understand what it means to me. They got to see what it was at the end of the journey. And hopefully, people eventually find out like how hard of a journey it actually was. and maybe it would add more volume to the story of especially LiT, but not only LiT myself. But yeah, I mean, thanks for watching. Thank you guys for also having me on the podcast. I love the podcast, so I'm always glad to be here. And so yeah, but that's kind of all my shout outs.
Amazing.
All right. Well, Messages, thank you so much for joining us once again. Well, hopefully see you in another great spot, crushing it in tier 2 in 2024 with LiT. So, yeah, thank you so much once again. That's gonna do it for our 31st episode. We're not sure what exactly we're gonna be doing over these next couple of weeks. There's still more to talk about in terms of developmental League of Legends. So, we'll keep things updated. But
we'll probably
we're
be
in
around.
off season
Yeah.
mode a little bit at this point, Hawk, and so we'll keep you guys posted on what to expect in the future.
Yeah, we'll keep everyone updated. We'll probably be pushing out a little bit of content here and there. But again, thank you to Messages. Messages, where can everyone find you on social media?
I think it should just be Twitter Messages, and then X. I don't know. It's Twitter, honestly.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter.
It's
It's
Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah,
It's Twitter.
it's Twitter.
Honestly, just follow me on Twitter. I don't really stream other than CQ, and CQ's a bit dead, so just follow me on Twitter.
There we go.
Messages lol. Yeah.
All right, follow Messages on Twitter at MessagesLol. Follow us on Twitter at Salty Runback Pod. Follow me and Grapes at Hawkcast at Speedy Grapes. On all of our platforms, you can find us at Salty Runback Pod and shoot us an email at saltyrunbackpod@gmail.com. That's pretty much the entire outro. Stay tuned for any other content that we have coming up. We may or may not be trying to cook something up, and we'll see you all in the next episode. If you didn't like something that was said, you can take it with a grain of salt, but I'm not gonna lie, I think everything that was said in this interview was pretty damn good. I've been Hawk. That's been Messages and Grapes. Have a great night, everyone.